Hello out there, folks. How are you doing? Thank you once again for joining me. This is The Ray Warner Show. We had a lot go on last week. Of course, Obama spoke and marched in Selma, Alabama for the 50th anniversary of the violence that occurred there. Not everyone was happy about what he said. We'll talk about that. Wait till you see what the New York Times did with that, by the way. And, of course, we had some more Servergate news. We'll talk about that. We had a letter written to Iran warning them, and ultimately Obama, of a deal, or that the deal, any deal brokered between the two, must pass Congress. We'll talk about that. And Ferguson has found its way back into the news. We'll talk about that. All of that right here, right now on this, The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you have any questions for me, any comments, any concerns, if you need to rant or vent, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, Obama spoke and marched in a meeting at Selma for the 50th anniversary of the violence that occurred there, Bloody Sunday, back in 1965. And before I get into this, I found this interesting little clip. This was, before he was president, Illinois Senator Barack Obama speaking to a crowd in Selma, Alabama, about something that occurred because of the events in Selma. He's talking about his parents. Listen to this.
They looked at each other and they decided, we know that in the world as it has been, it might not be possible for us to get together and have a child. But something's stirring across the country because of what happened in Selma, Alabama, because some folks are willing to march across a bridge. And so they got together and Barack Obama Jr. was born. So don't tell me I don't have a claim on Selma, Alabama. Don't tell me I'm not coming home when I come to Selma, Alabama.
So he's saying that in 1965, when the violence occurred in Selma, Alabama, that his parents were there, and because of the events in Selma in 1965, Barack Obama Jr. was born. The only problem with that is Obama was born in 1961. So who's doing the lying? Was he lied to, or is he lying to us about what went on? Or is he just making up this story and, got his dates wrong? But anyway, on to the speech. Obama said something that did not sit well with everyone, and really speaking out against this was black pastors who didn't appreciate President Obama likening the events of Selma to gay rights. I found this in Breitbart News. The president of the Black Pastors Coalition has expressed his anger that President Obama compared the civil rights movement to that for same-sex unions at the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday March, when, of course, during that time, black Americans were being beaten while demanding voting rights that they were being denied. This is what the coalition took issue with.
Ask your gay friend if it's easier to be out and proud in America now than it was 30 years ago.
Now, the president of this coalition, Reverend William Owens, it is the Coalition of African American Pastors, or CAAP. I hate saying African American, by the way. I don't know about you. I hate saying that because it really doesn't mean anything. Did you know that Charlize Theron was born in Africa? She is an African American. If you don't know who that is, look her up. She was in the movie Hancock with Will Smith. We have black people in this country that are African American that have never been to Africa. Charlize Theron is like the whitest woman in America, and she is African American. It just doesn't mean anything. But anyway, the Breitbart article quotes Reverend Owens. Quote, I marched with many people back in those days, and I have reached out to some of my friends who marched with me, and all of them are shocked. They never thought they would see this day that gay rights would be equated with civil rights. Not one agreed with this comparison. President Obama is a disgrace to the black community. He is rewriting history. We didn't suffer and die for gay unions. We marched for opportunity, equality, justice, freedom from oppression. We are the true heirs of the civil rights movement. We have a new movement to reclaim the real civil rights movement now. The LGBT community hijacked our movement, a movement they know nothing about. President Obama is delusional to compare our struggle with the struggle for marriage equality. Gays have not had fire hoses or dogs unleashed at them. They have not been hung from trees or denied basic human rights. President Obama didn't march. He has benefited from those of us who did march. But for President Obama to say we marched so that gays would have the right to marry today is a disgrace and a lie, end quote. So, yeah, Pastor Owens is very unhappy with this comparison. Now, the Coalition of African American Pastors has launched a new initiative called RISE. This is a grassroots network that unites people of every race, creed, culture, and background to focus on defending faith, family, and justice. And the word rise, the name that they've given their movement, comes from Acts 26:16, which says, "But rise and stand on your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose, to make you a minister and a witness both of the things which you have seen and of the things which I will yet reveal to you." So they are trying to take the movement back from all these other weird liberals that are going on about civil rights. But anyway, what Obama did accomplish in Selma was to show his misunderstanding of the events that took place in Ferguson.
What happened in Ferguson may not be unique, but it's no longer endemic. It's no longer sanctioned by law or by custom.
What happened in Ferguson is no more sanctioned by law? Since when? Since when does someone attack a police officer and try to grab his gun, and the officer shoots him and kills him, and that is not sanctioned by law, Mr. President? If you attack an officer and try to grab his gun, you're going to get shot, and you might get killed, and that is sanctioned by law. I got news for you, Mr. President. But he had more to say about Ferguson.
Of course, a more common mistake is to suggest that Ferguson is an isolated incident.
To call this an isolated incident? Now, you got to remember his perspective. If we follow the Sharpton-Holder-Obama theory, police just go around shooting black men all the time. This is no isolated incident. This happens all the time. You ever hear driving while black? If I run a stop sign or if I'm speeding and I get pulled over, I get a ticket because what I did was wrong. But if a black person runs a stop sign or is speeding and gets pulled over, he's being harassed. He's being victimized by a racist, bigoted cop because he was driving while black. See, that's the difference. I had this friend, Larry. His last name is unimportant, but Larry was a really good guy. When I met him, he was like 48 years old, and he's probably in his 60s now. And I met him on a job. I was building a house for a guy. And Larry was a good worker. He always was, even when he went into business for himself and was a good worker. But Larry was always having run-ins with the law. And the reason why is because Larry had a drug problem. And I'm not saying anything about blacks and drugs. All I'm saying is Larry had a drug problem, and because of that, he was always in conflict with the law. And it's as simple as that. You want to stop having problems with police, stop doing drugs, and you'll stop having problems with police. If you're doing something wrong, if you're committing crime, and then you have a run-in with the law, I got news for you. You're committing the crime is the problem, not your run-in with the law. Now, Obama, in his speech, he tried to say that there's progress being made. That was a good thing, because a lot of progress has been made in equality. But he also threw this in.
Just this week I was asked whether I thought the Department of Justice's Ferguson report shows that, with respect to race, little has changed in this country. And I understood the question. The report's narrative was sadly familiar. It evoked the kind of abuse and disregard for citizens that spawned the civil rights movement.
So the report that the DOJ released recently, I've brought you that story, Obama says is very familiar, talking about the racism going on in Ferguson. So just like Holder, Ferguson, the Ferguson Police Department is just full of a bunch of racists. And so Obama is the same thing, just like Holder said. Ferguson Police Department is just full of a bunch of racists. It's all too familiar a story. So he's telling people, we have a lot more to do. We have a lot further to go. The fight is not over, blah, blah, blah. And what happens after Holder's remarks and after Obama's remarks? There's another Ferguson protest. And this time, 2 police officers get shot. Can it be possible that Obama and Holder just don't understand that when you incite people to violence, they will usually act out violently? Does he not get that? It has to be what he wants. Or else why would he have told him to stay the course? Remember that? Obama told him stay the course. And we know Al Sharpton knows. We know that what he's doing is inciting them to violence on purpose. He's a race baiter. He lives off of it. But these 2 guys in the administration, they don't know this. He also said something else in that speech, and this should be worrisome to the entire country. Listen to this.
First and foremost, we have to recognize that one day's commemoration, no matter how special, is not enough. If Selma taught us anything, it's that our work is never done.
The work is never done. Now, he has to understand the gravity of that statement and what it meant to a crowd like this. And when I say crowd like this, I mean liberal crowd, or any liberal crowd for that matter. You can hang that statement on any part of liberalism you want. The work is never done because they never are done. These people are never satisfied. They want something for 100 years, like health care. And finally they get it, and what do? Well, they keep going. They try for even more, or they move on to the next thing. But the fight is never over for them. They just keep coming at you and coming at you. And, of course, their grand design is always, something down the road. They just nudge a little bit here. They prod along a little bit here, a little bit there, constantly gaining ground, slowly but consistently moving us all toward destruction, toward chaos and disorder. One day we're all going to wake up and there's going to be a hat tax. The colonists had a hat tax. They had to keep a piece of paper in their hat and be able to display on demand that their hat was, their hat tax was current. That or walk around without a hat. One day, we're going to wake up, and the place that we're living in is going to look like that. There's going to be a hat tax, or something to that effect. That's when it gets ugly. Because then it takes a revolution to get your freedom back. So the more that these liberals prod us along, and we're like frogs in the boiling water, we don't see what's going on until one day it requires revolution to get your freedoms back. That's what's going to happen. President Ronald Reagan warned us of the consequences of failing to maintain our freedom.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
That is exactly what's happening, folks. Our freedom is slipping away. That's what caused me to start this show. I know there are other people doing it, but it's my prayer that this audience grows and this message reaches all of America. Because of liberalism, our freedom is slowly slipping away. It has to be stopped. I'm not going to go down without doing something. Every time you hear a liberal say that they have more to do or our work is never done, or we've made progress, but we still have more work to do, just remember, that leads to revolution. There's no other possible outcome, really. I don't want that for my children. This country survived the world superpower of that day, England, coming over here and attacking our soil, attacking us on our soil. It survived our bloodiest war in history, the death of 600,000 people in a civil war that almost tore this country apart. And then after that, survived World War I. We emerged as a global superpower. Survived fighting relentless enemies on 2 different fronts in World War II. We survived the Cold War. This is the mightiest nation that the world has ever seen. Also, the most charitable and the most giving. We've not only survived our own financial crises and stock market crashes and whatnot, but it's America. America that has poured literally trillions of dollars into providing food and shelter and freedom, for that matter. Building infrastructure, things like that all around the globe. What a shame that America, that shining city on a hill, is going to be done in by liberalism. We'll be back, folks. Stay right there.
Serving America by serving you. You're listening to The Ray Warner Show.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Our healthcare premiums are out of control. I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Haven't you heard about MediShare? It isn't insurance. It's a nationwide network of Christians who save money by sharing each other's medical bills. We get to pick our own doctors, and our share is almost 40% less than our old premium.
But what about the new law?
Well, MediShare is a health-sharing ministry, which makes it exempt from the health reform laws.
If you're a Christian and a non-smoker, log on or call to see how you could start saving on healthcare today. Call 1-866-330-8585 or visit meta-share.org. You do have a choice.
You have reached the Bovine Chicken Chat Line, where you can chat with tons and tons of cows about chicken. All our cows are busy. While you're waiting, why not get to know some of these fuzzy fans of chicken? Heifer 9672 is a 1,200-pounder from Kentucky who likes long walks in the pasture, watching cars go by from the pasture, and eating the pasture. She's also an aspiring author, writing a book called The Burgers of Wrath. Bull 5441 is a bull from Chicago with a pierced nose and a nasty temper. But he loves people who eat chicken and the good folks at Chick-fil-A who make the chicken. Bull 5441's pet peeves are cow tipping and the color red, especially when it's meat. All our cows are still busy. Please try calling the Bovine Chicken Chat Line later. The cows thank you for calling and for not eating burgers. This call made possible by Chick-fil-A.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening in today. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. Don't forget, if you want to email me, if you want to email the show, if you have any comments, any questions, any feedback, any concerns, you just want to tell me to shut up, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, by the way, that Selma March, I'm going to post 2 photos on the post page. You'll see as they rotate. I've got a photo of the front page of the New York Times, and right after that will be a photo of the same angle, the same shot, but it'll be a bigger one. And you'll see that the New York Times cropped out of that picture President George W. Bush and former First Lady Laura Bush from the bridge photo in that Selma March. Of course, it says in the upper left-hand corner, all the news that's fit to print. Isn't a former president attending an event like this news? Even news that's fit to print? I guess they better change that. Looks like they missed some news that was certainly fit to print. Now, I want to segue into Ferguson. Ferguson is back in the news after Obama's scathing rebuke in Selma of what he thinks is the cause of all the riots and the looting and destruction and all that, and violence and all that going on down in Ferguson. And, of course, after Holder, after his remarks, when his Department of Justice released their findings into the Michael Brown shooting, the protests are starting back up. And, Eric Holder, he announced that there was absolutely nothing wrong with the actions of Officer Darren Wilson. No prosecutable actions of the officer while he was defending his life against strong armed robbery suspect Michael Brown. But then, of course, Holder had to cowardly call the fine men and women of the Ferguson Police Department a bunch of racists anyway. So early Thursday morning, 2 cops were shot by protesters and are in critical condition. Now, there has been all kinds of reaction to this on the left and on the right, but none quite like John Muhammad. This guy, wait until you hear this guy, John Muhammad, speak about the shooting of the officers. Now, this guy spells it M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D, just so you know, John Muhammad. But anyway, he was on Fox News being interviewed. I don't know the guy's name who was interviewing him, but this is what John Muhammad had to say about the shooting.
I think it was a complete setup. I think it was a setup between members of the police fraternity, is what I like to call it. I think they operate just like the KKK. I think they did it to make themselves seem like they're the victim. When honestly the victim are black people. I think it's just a publicity stunt, no more than that. It puts them back in power and in control. It puts them back in a favor. Nothing is going to die down. We have a motto, and it's called "We cannot stop. We can't stop now."
So this clown thinks the cops orchestrated this and shot themselves. Either the what he called the police fraternity or the KKK. It's all one big brotherhood of white people, and they have orchestrated this whole thing. It's an inside job. They shot themselves. That's this guy's answer to this. You know, if anything, I would say Obama had something to do with this. His ammunition ban just went down recently. He was trying to ban the most popular ammunition for the most popular firearm in America, the AR-15, and the ban went down. And of course, we heard from Josh Earnest that this was supposed to be some kind of common sense measure to help protect our police officers. Whatever. Even the cops were coming out against that nonsense. So what happens? Just after the ban goes down, some cops get shot. How fishy does that look? But anyway.
This is a major problem that black men, black women are being shot down and killed by white police officers, sometimes black, because the problem is not always these white people. Well, it is, but it's not.
So the problem is not always white people. It is, but it's not. So you can hear the vitriol, can't you? The disdain. This guy, the hate. He just hates white people. The problem is white people. White police officers shooting black men. Once again, forget the facts. I can't stand these people that could care less about the facts of Ferguson. The fact that Michael Brown had just committed robbery. Just committed strong-arm robbery. The fact that he had marijuana in his system. The fact that he attacked a police officer, punched him in the face, reached inside his squad car and tried to grab his firearm, tried to take the gun from the officer. The fact that he then tried to flee, and when he was told to stop, turned around and taunted the cop, and then charged at him like a football player. The fact that black eyewitnesses said Officer Wilson showed too much restraint, that they would have shot sooner. None of these facts matter to these people. What got Michael Brown killed was those actions, not just some white cop going around looking for black men to shoot. I am so sick of hearing that stupid nonsense. None of these facts, not the hands up, don't shoot lie, none of that matters.
When you say push forward, do you mean in a peaceful manner or any manner necessary?
Police can answer that question. I can't. Police can only answer that.
Only the police can answer that? The police were just shot at. Why is it that only the police have the responsibility to be civil? Why is that? Why is it that you can rob liquor stores, you can go looting, you can set cars and buildings on fire, you can do all that stuff, but the minute a cop approaches you, well, now the cop's not being civil. It's up to them, right? Only the police can tell us how far this is going to escalate. Now, here's what's really funny. This is my favorite clip of the week. The guy asking him the questions, he's picking up on this guy. He's picking up that this guy just straight up hates white people. And he just hates cops, just hates police officers. He tries to get him to admit that, he tries to get him to sanction the violence is what he's trying to do. Listen to this.
Do you mean respond to force with force?
I mean defend yourself at all times.
So not a strictly nonviolent movement? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just asking where you're coming from.
No, I get it.
Because a lot of protesters here have told us this shooting is an outrage. It has nothing to do with us. We don't want any part of it. We're upset by it. Other people have said, hey, it's a punch for a punch. They got what they deserved. And I'm looking for people's points of view. I'm trying to figure out yours.
Absolutely.
Where's this going?
I think this is going to be a major movement until things get settled the way it's supposed to, until justice actually comes to black people, until justice comes to Mike Brown. Things are not going to stop.
Boy, you could tell he really wants to. He really wants to sanction that violence. He really wants to go, oh, yeah, and it's just going to get worse, man. It's only going to get worse until we get what we want. He would love to do that, but he knows he better not. He's on TV, so he doesn't bite. But he did say we need to defend ourselves at all times. You know, you do whatever you want. You want to go looting, you go looting, but you make sure you defend yourself against the police. This guy is calling for violence, isn't he? Things are just not going to stop, not until there's justice. Justice for Michael Brown. You heard him say that, right? I got news for you, Mr. Muhammad. Michael Brown got justice. When you try to grab an officer's gun, if you get shot and killed, that's justice. You don't try to grab an officer's gun. You don't fight a cop. You don't punch a cop. You don't do that. And if you get shot, that's justice. Let's finish this guy up.
Things are not going to stop. 7 months ago, we saw street protests. Then in November, we saw buildings on fire. Now we see 2 policemen shot. Where's it going from here?
Like I said, your police brothers can answer that question. I cannot.
My police brothers?
Your police brothers.
They're not your police?
No, they don't serve and protect me.
So it's just purely a race thing?
It has a lot to do with it.
They protect whites but not blacks.
That's been proven.
So you heard him say the escalation. You know, first there was protests, and then we had cars on fire, then we had buildings on fire. You know, now we got officers being shot. You know, what's next? Where does it go from here? You know, where is this going to end? Is this escalation going to just increase? And he's like, hey, go ask the police. It's all up to them. It's up to the police how far this goes. I mean, this guy, he's got a screw loose. How did he get elected? I wonder if that is an elected position, city manager or whatever he is. But you could just tell, straight up, hates white people, can't stand them, can't stand police. Everything they do is bad. You can rob and loot and do whatever you want. As soon as you meet up with law enforcement, boy, they better just be civil and toe the line. Otherwise, I guess they're supposed to just leave you alone. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. You're just supposed to be allowed to commit crime, and cops are not supposed to be able to do anything about it. Well, on to Servergate. Hillary Clinton finally spoke out about Servergate. She held a press conference and made a statement that, in my opinion, just made things worse.
When I got to work as Secretary of State, I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed by the State Department, because I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of 2. Looking back, it would have been better if I'd simply used a second email account and carried a second phone, but at the time, this didn't seem like an issue.
2 devices? Seriously? This is what she expects us to believe? You know, I don't agree with Van Jones, if you know who that is. He's just a leftist wacko, but what he said that Hillary's playing the grandma card, like she's just some bumbling grandmother. Oh, I don't know. Mrs. Clinton, you can have 2 accounts on one device. It's possible. I'll show you how to do it. You can have more than 2 accounts on one device. But never mind that. Just 2 weeks ago, she said something completely different.
So I want to ask the big question. Okay. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Okay, in full disclosure, BlackBerry.
And a BlackBerry. So I have an iPad, a mini iPad, an iPhone, and a BlackBerry.
So now she's got 3 devices, an iPad mini, an iPhone, a BlackBerry. Gee, Mrs. Clinton, you could have had 3 accounts. You can have an account on each device. You know, and in the first place, does anybody believe that Hillary Clinton carries anything? She travels with an entourage of what, like 100 people? With all the millions of dollars that you and Bubba have earned giving speeches, you couldn't create one more job? You couldn't hire someone to carry a second device for you? Back to the press conference.
The vast majority of my work emails went to government employees at their government addresses, which meant they were captured and preserved immediately on the system at the State Department.
So a vast majority, not all, just a vast majority, were sent to and preserved at the State Department. Now here's the translation. Here's the Hillary to reality translation. Of course, knowing that I had a private server under my complete control, and that the State Department's server wasn't under my complete control, any emails I sent that I knew would be preserved on the government system, I made sure didn't contain any information that I didn't ever want to see the light of day. That's what my private server was for. Silly. So, of course, if she sent an email, that she knows, okay, I'm sending this to a .gov address, so this is going to be, of course that email is going to be strictly business. It's going to be about meetings. It's going to be, nothing that's going to be harmful to her. We all know what your private server was for, Mrs. Clinton. It wasn't for that.
After I left office, the State Department asked former secretaries of state for our assistance in providing copies of work-related emails from our personal accounts. I responded right away and provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related, which totaled roughly 55,000 printed pages, even though I knew that the State Department already had the vast majority of them. We went through a thorough process to identify all of my work-related emails and deliver them to the State Department.
So, who's we, Hillary? Let me translate this for you. When the State Department asked for all of my emails, me and my closest trusted staff went through all of my crap, and we printed only what we wanted to be printed, and handed to the State Department only what we wanted to hand to the State Department. Because after all, that's what my private server was for. It was for keeping my crap private and under my complete control. Is that clear enough? I didn't give them the server. I'm not going to give them the server. I already went through it, and I gave them hard copies of what I okayed to be released. See how open and transparent I am?
At the end, I chose not to keep my private, personal emails. Emails about planning Chelsea's wedding or my mother's funeral arrangements, condolence notes to friends, as well as yoga routines, family vacations, the other things you typically find in inboxes.
Once again, the Hillary to reality translation. I chose not to keep what I didn't want kept. So, go chase yourself. It's already been deleted.
I took the unprecedented step of asking that the State Department make all my work-related emails public for everyone to see.
And since I already went through them, printed them, and turned them over to the State Department, that means whatever you see has already been approved by me for you to see. And the emails that I sent that I knew would be preserved on the government system don't contain anything that will show me in a negative light anyway. So those you can see as well. Mrs. Clinton, the only unprecedented step you took was setting up your own private server for the people's business, making sure that your State Department work product in the form of email would always be under your complete control, regardless of any investigation, regardless of any subpoena. That's why there are months of gaps in your email record, Mrs. Clinton, because it was under your control. All that Benghazi stuff that we're looking for we'll never find. Boy, you made sure you hid that well, didn't you? And don't forget, Huma, her right-hand gal, also had an account on this server.
I am very proud of the work that I and my colleagues and our public servants at the department did during my 4 years as Secretary of State. And I look forward to people being able to see that for themselves.
You don't need to look forward to that, Mrs. Clinton. We already see for ourselves the work you did as Secretary of State. We have this disastrous relationship with Russia after your embarrassing reset button. We have Benghazi, Mrs. Clinton, 4 dead Americans, including our ambassador to Libya, because of your failure to answer that 3 a.m. phone call, wasn't it? That you so proudly put your ad in front of all of our faces. That was an example of your work, Mrs. Clinton. Your failure to respond to repeated calls for higher security. There's another example of your work, Mrs. Clinton. I would not be proud of my performance if that was my record. I think I would probably just go hang my head in shame somewhere, retire from public life, retire from public view, in fact, if that was my record, Mrs. Clinton, if that was on my conscience. We'll be back. Stay right there.
Turn left. Turn right. You have reached your destination at the Ray Warner Show.
Shocking news. 666, the mark of the beast, and the NIV. God said, man said.com.
Bible rewires addicts' brains. Geologists floored by water rock. God said, man said.com.
Dinosaurs and man contemporaneously. Hours of text and audio. God said, man said.com.
Radiometric dating and a 6,000-year-old Earth. Honey and the finger of God. Free love's deadly superbug. God said, man said.com.
I came home last night and my door was smashed open. It's like they knew right where to go. Like they'd been in my house before. They got my cameras, the silver, the coins. My husband's beautiful old shotgun. They took my jewelry. I can't believe it. It's all gone.
Each year, more than 4 million homes are burglarized in the U.S. Keep your valuables safe and secure with a safe that gives you an extra margin of protection. A Liberty safe is built tough and offers the most technologically advanced security features available. Plus, Liberty safes are independently certified for residential security, and they're built right here in the U.S. Don't take a chance when it comes to your home security. Purchase a Liberty safe for the things you value most.
Some things can be replaced. Some just can't.
To learn more, go to libertysafe.com.
Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the only true revolution that has ever taken place in man's history. Every other revolution simply exchanged one set of rulers for another set of rulers. But only here did that little band of men so advance beyond their time that the world has never seen their like since, evolve the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny. But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free. Thank you.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show, hosted by me, Ray Warner. If you want to email me or the show, if you have any comments, any questions, or feedback, the email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. This whole Hillary email Servergate thing, I'm conflicted as to whether the administration was privy to this or not. I actually think that Hillary was hiding from them more than she's hiding from us. I think she was hiding from Obama. You know, the whole CIA thing and all that. We had people in the Senate being spied on. If you listen to the answers that we've been given, Josh Earnest let the cat out of the bag. He said that, yeah, the president got emails, the White House got emails. Valerie Jarrett, she was asked about getting emails, and she just didn't even have to think about it. She just spit out, nope, never got an email. Never got an email from Hillary Clinton. Nope. No one in the White House ever got an email from Secretary of State. Nope. Nope. Didn't even think about it. Didn't go look it up. Didn't sug it back. Just nope. I mean, that's the answer. You know, when there's scandal involved, nope. That's the. And President Obama, of course, he didn't even know. He found out on the news. This guy's the last to know everything. So they didn't have their ducks in a row on this. Their answers are like all over the map on this thing. I don't think they knew. I think they were completely taken by surprise. And, it took them a minute to get their act together. I still don't think they have it together, but I don't think they knew. I think they were taken by surprise. Now, 47 senators have signed on to a letter of Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. The letter was, it's an open letter. It's just to the world, but it's addressed to the leadership in Iran. And it's to warn them, and of course ultimately Obama, that any deal that's brokered between these two must pass Congress in order to be ratified. Otherwise, the next president can just, throw it away. Now, the left is going absolutely bonkers over this. You got reaction all over the place. You got people calling these guys treasonists and traitors. It's just run the gamut. Now, all of that, if you ask me, is just proof that it's all political. When it comes to the left, they really don't care what's right. They're just in the tank for Obama. They're in the tank for leftists. They're in the tank for the liberal cause. When it's Pelosi going to the Middle East to undermine George W. Bush, nobody says anything on the left. When it's Democrats, a long time ago, Democrats went to the Soviet Union to try to help the Soviet Union negotiate against Ronald Reagan. That's not treason. But once again, they don't care. As long as it's a Republican president, they don't care. But when it's Obama, now they're just all upset. And this guy, Tom Cotton, this guy's awesome. He's this freshman senator out of Arkansas, and he just refuses to be pushed around.
The simple fact of the matter is the deal the president has proposed, and we know 2 terms of it, are unacceptable for the U.S. and the world. He would accept a 10-year sunset on a deal, and he would allow Iran to have a vast uranium enrichment capability, which is a critical component of a nuclear weapon. The U.S. Senate is focused on stopping Iran from getting a nuclear bomb, not just today and tomorrow, but 10 years and 15 years from now. We're trying to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, and Iran has to understand that the Congress will protect the American people from a bad deal, as they have been doing for 200 years and as our founding fathers envisioned.
So this guy isn't taking any crap. He was in a Twitter war with Hillary Clinton over this, too. It's so nice to see another senator that can join in with Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and stand up for what's right. I hope this guy gets more involved and stands up for what's right. We need more people like this in Congress, in the Senate, in the House. Now, Obama himself responded to the letter. He did this in an interview with Vice News. We only have part of that. They're supposed to release the entire interview next week. But they gave us this quick soundbite from a trailer.
I'm embarrassed for them to address a letter to the Ayatollah, who they claim is our mortal enemy. And their basic argument to them is, don't deal with our president, because you can't trust him to follow through on an agreement. It's close to unprecedented.
You're embarrassed for them, Mr. President? I'm embarrassed for you. This is a horrible, horrible deal that you are proposing to Iran. It's not even like it's they're trying to get it. It's you proposing it, and they still don't want it. It's only going to weaken us further. You're either incompetent or it's intentional. Which is it, Mr. President? I think I know. And it's close to unprecedented? I'm not exactly sure. What does that mean, Mr. President? Either it's unprecedented or it isn't. It's like saying you're a little pregnant. I'll tell you what is unprecedented. We've never had a United States president negotiate against the United States or our ally, in this case, Israel. People are just now figuring out how much you hate this country, Barack the First. That is unprecedented. I am thankful that the Senate, in this case led by Tom Cotton on this issue, has the courage to stand up to your foolishness. This letter, I'll tell you what this letter is, Mr. President. It's an attempt to regain a check on another co-equal branch of government. Nothing more, nothing less. It is an attempt to remind you of that check, to check your unprecedented executive power grab. That's what it is. Now, more leftist nutcases spewed forth their criticism of this letter. I'm not going to play it. As F. Chuck Todd, he called it treason. We had Howard Dean, the live cartoon. I don't know, how does anybody take this guy seriously? He called it treason. We had a petition given over to the White House with over 100,000 signatures on it. They're asking for these senators to be charged and tried with treason. The Daily News, of course, printed photos on the front page of several of the prominent senators that signed on with the word traitors under them. So, like I said, a whole lot of feigned outrage by the left over these people trying to do the right thing and stop Barack I from just giving away the farm is what he's doing. Now, I've got one more item of interest here. I saw this and I just had to throw it in here. Just in case you were wondering if the whole world has gone mad, here is your proof. I saw this in Breitbart. The Islamic Human Rights Commission gives out an award for biggest Islamophobe in different categories. Now, the international title went to the murdered staff of the Charlie Hebdo publication. This magazine won the award for biggest international Islamophobe of the year. Now, just so you know, Charlie Hebdo had some stiff competition. They beat out the likes of Bill Maher. Bill Maher, he just hates everybody, all religion in general. They even beat out Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for this award. So, this is a big deal. Now, of course, they were not present to accept the award. They were not present to accept the award of world's biggest Islamophobe because they're dead. They were shot and killed in the name of Muhammad by Islamists. And that's it for this week, folks. Thanks again for listening today. Don't forget, if you want to email me, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, you can comment on the podcast page, but you can also email me at theraywarnershow@gmail.com. And while you're there, while you're on the website, theraywarnershow.com, check out the new opinions page. And don't forget, I don't know how you listen to The Ray Warner Show and the Ray Warner Quick Reports, but there are many ways that you can listen. If you go to theraywarnershow.com, you can subscribe and get a link in your email. You can subscribe at The Ray Warner Show YouTube channel. Every show is posted on the Facebook and on the Twitter. You can also get the show and subscribe at iTunes. And you can also download it from iTunes and from theraywarnershow.com on the podcast page. However you listen, I am so thankful that you do, and we'll see you next week. So long.